How long did it take you guys to create your sound?
I think you're always creating a sound. I think that the role of an artist is to find new places to go, to wonder, to explore. The story is a part of it, the words and the path that the narrative takes. But I think the sound as well, you're curious, you wonder, what would it sound like if you put a banjo on it? What would it sound like if we turned it all the way up? These are things that can craft an entire lifetime of exploration.
Today's episode is also brought to you by MindBloom. It's time to enter the next chapter of mental health with MindBloom, the leader in at-home ketamine therapy. Get $100 off your first 6-session program when you sign up at mindbloom.com/path and use promo code PATH at checkout. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Savlov, and welcome to another edition of The Path Here. And with us, and you can see between these two gentlemen, the band Switchfoot. Now, they're kind of synonymous with Switchfoot, and if you think they look alike, they do. And if you think they look alike because they're brothers, they are. It's Tim and John Foreman. The Foreman brothers are two integral parts of the band Switchfoot. Boys, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing, Scott?
All good. Well, I commented to you earlier, we are all San Diegans. However, we don't ever see each other talk in San Diego. The last time I saw you guys, you were in a Delta Lounge in JFK, our two ships passing in the night. And I'm elated that Switchfoot is celebrating, your lives as a band and the iteration of who you guys are. As I commented to you guys, to me, Switchfoot is a band of storytelling. And even though you're not necessarily sitting on a stool, which you don't, in concert, you guys are in motion. And there's been different iterations of Switchfoot, whether it be that indie sound that you probably still embrace, but also you guys have gone hard rock, you've gone spiritual music, and it's just you. The name Switchfoot is a surfing term, right?
Yes, and if it looks like we are still salty from the Pacific, that is correct. I think surfing is what has kept us together as a band for many years. Stay
How
salty.
How often do you guys surf together?
Quite a bit. So this morning, John, Chad, and I were the three that started this band, and we met Chad through surfing.
Is that right?
And we're still to this day surfing together as much as we can.
When you guys say that, you guys just had gone to the same location and you met Chad that way, or is it somebody else introduced you guys?
So Chad was attending UCSD. I was thinking about going to UCSD, and he was the captain of the surf team. And he had the key to Black's Beach, which if you're a surfer in San Diego and you have the key to Black's Beach, everyone wants to be your friend. Right. So, the first time I ever hung out with Chad, we surfed down there, and the VW Bug that our grandma had given to my brother and I, the 67 Volkswagen Bug, I locked the keys inside, trying to be cool with this older guy who's the captain of the surf team, and I'm just in high school. And we spent maybe an hour or two prying the windows open, finally getting in to get the keys. And Chad and I have been friends ever since. I think we've seen a lot of things over the years. That was just an indicator of one of many things that could go wrong.
Well, I have you here. What do you think about playing drums in a band?
Yeah.
Did you guys know he was a drummer?
we kind of did. The San Diego music scene, the surf scene is pretty small. Everyone knows everyone. And someone has a sister that somebody dated. That everything is very, very small when it comes to San Diego,
right.
Especially back then. And so we knew that he was in a band, and but yeah, we never dreamed that our path would be what it is. Looking back, 25 years later.
How long did it take you guys to create your sound?
I think you're always creating a sound. I think that every time you pick up a guitar, you have certain tendencies,
right?
And those tendencies are, neither good nor bad. But I do think that part of the role of an artist is to find new places to go, to wonder, to explore. And, you mentioned storytelling. Certainly the story is a part of it, the words and the path that the narrative takes. But I think the sound as well, you're curious, you wonder, what would it sound like if you put a banjo on it? What would it sound like if we turned it all the way up? These are things that can craft an entire lifetime of exploration.
The who you are and who you could be, to me, is Dare You to Move. Would that be a good assessment of that song?
Yeah. Between how it is and how it should be, between who you are and who you could be. Yeah. The possibility. Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the writing for you guys of that song in particular.
This one was before I dropped out of college. So I'm reading a lot of Kierkegaard. The dynamic of existentialism from a philosophical perspective puts you in a volatile place where the individual is on the precipice of decision at all points of their life, and I think that song for me, I wonder what Kierkegaard would think of it if he heard it. Because I feel like, that's a time in your life with college where you have this, it's just this big unknown. You have no real responsibilities and anything could happen. And I feel like that song kind of came from that kind of thinking, wondering who am I and where does this thing go?
Tim, what's the difference in your guys' age?
John's 2 years older.
Okay. So when he's in college and going through this, or finding his way in college, you're in the same high school, right?
Yeah. So we started the band in my senior year.
Okay.
With Chad. Put out our first record, 4 days after I graduated high school.
There you go.
And we immediately went to Europe for our first European tour, which was basically some scrap together, like coffee shops, bars, wherever we could get gigs, yeah. and just on our own dime, And the thing I remember most about that tour was there was a swell that was hitting France. We were in England. We'd finished all of our shows, and we were doing the math on, well, if we check out of the hotel a day early, we'll have enough money to get to France to go surfing. And so we came up with the master plan. We can stay up all night if we sleep during the day in the park, And so we were just sleeping in random places in the park, trying to kind of log our sleep time in so we could stay up at night in London, which the nighttime in London is kind of a shocker, at least right. It was back then. We saw some wild things and, getting kicked out of train stations, but we made it to France and got great waves.
Did you write a song about that experience at all or no?
Not yet.
Yeah, maybe that's the next song.
That is a song. I don't know.
I mean, it's a microcosm of, a lot of our history together,
right.
Is embracing the adventure along the way,
For me, yeah. My kids, Your music, first of all, when we get to Hello Hurricane, that album, my then 10-year-old was listening to it because I was working with your management, and we had this series that was going to be on Fox Sports, like a real healthy lifestyle show on Fox Sports. I was hosting, and there were all these teens in it, and they said, "What about Switchfoot's music?" I'm like, "Love it, love it." And the kids, of course, they loved it. And so everybody said, "Well, you pick out which song." And my 10-year-old, she gravitated to Hello Hurricane. And Hello Hurricane was the theme song for 2 years on Fox Sports. Everybody knows of Someday We'll Know, which Mandy Moore, she kind of jumped over me a little bit with a movie. She had a big time movie with your guys' music in it and the whole thing with A Walk to Remember. I think that was the name of the movie. But Hello Hurricane. So it had an impact, right? Of a 10-year-old girl loved that song and that sound. But they vacillate between Dare You to Move and Meant to Live. Give me a little bit about Meant to Live and what that mindset was for you at that time.
Yeah. So that's a song that I wrote right after dropping out of college. And I think what's interesting is I love the way you phrase that question, the mindset of that song, because I've always held, even when I was, in junior high, that no one can tell you what a song means. Right. It's like the listener, almost like when I'd finish a song when I was a kid, I'd play a song and then somebody would say, "What's it about?" And I'm like, "I don't know. You were there, So I love the idea of telling you where I was coming from. But I love also other people's perspectives on their takeaway from the song. For me, Meant to Live is it's sung from the perspective of a kid who just dropped out of college, who is living near the beach in a kind of crappy little apartment with his best friend. And we're trying to keep the rats that live in the trees out of the apartment. I remember, I think the whole song is in third person about fumbling his confidence and talking about this character. But from my perspective, it was me, singing right to myself. We were meant to live, I think longing for more than this world has to offer. I love that line. I still love the line, "We want more than the wars of our fathers." Because I think many times these wars, internal and external, they perpetuate themselves, and certainly something I'm still longing for.
And that was a bridge that we wrote while driving to LA.
Yeah, I remember that in the back of the minivan.
Yep.
Or 15-passenger van.
Yeah. The first time John played that song for me, it was on the acoustic guitar.
Wow.
The whole thing, all the riffs, these big rock riffs, but just on an acoustic guitar. He's like, no, but it's going to be heavy. Like it's, and then we hopped in the car and we drove to LA, and by the time we got there, we had the bridge and we knew we had something special.
You just need to take better care of yourself is not a response to mental health struggles. And sometimes you need something more to achieve a real and lasting breakthrough. Maybe it's time you check out a guided ketamine therapy program from MindBloom. MindBloom is the leader in at-home ketamine therapy, offering a combination of science-backed medicine with clinician and guided support for people looking to improve their mental health and well-being. MindBloom will send you a kit in the mail complete with medicine, treatment materials, and tips for getting the most out of your experience. For me, I suffer from anxiety, and lots of times that anxiety is enhanced by claustrophobic things. I tried MindBloom, and for me it worked. Right now, MindBloom is offering our listeners $100 off your first 6-session program when you sign up at mindbloom.com/path and use promo code PATH at checkout. Go to mindbloom.com/path. promo code PATH for $100 off your first 6-session program today. That's mindbloom.com/PATH, promo code PATH. That's pretty cool. I mean, those are kind of like anthem songs, especially for Switchfoot. But I mean, for my kids growing up, they have symbolism. For me, there's 2 songs that I love of yours. I mean, a lot of your songs, I listen to them and they mean something to me, but Float is a fun song to me. It puts me for whatever reason, puts me in a great spirit. I don't know if that's what it's meant to be always, but to me it is.
Yeah, that one has an interesting story. My friend was living in Iraq at the time.
Oh, wow.
He felt like he, as an American, wanted to be a part of rebuilding the nation that felt like we had done so much, our military, and then just kind of left. And he wanted to be a part of making sure that they had access to healthcare and that the kids had access to education and things like that. So he's living in Iraq. And his life, I mean, gosh, he's there with his family.
Oh, geez.
And it really just a heavy thing. You know, one of those guys that takes all of the excuses out of the room because you're like, oh, well, I've got kids. I can't go down to Iraq, really volatile place right now. And he's like, oh, I've got my kids with me, But he was saying that our music has a way of giving oxygen to the room and lifting their spirits as a family, that they would dance at the end of a really heavy day, Al-Qaeda or whatever is happening in their part of the world, that our songs would be that for them. So I thought, I want to write a song that would be dancing music for my friend's family over in Iraq while they're trying to do some beautiful work down there. So that's the impetus behind Float, was wanted to be dancing music for hard times.
Well, that it is. There's several songs in my life, and that's what's great about music and musicians. To me, it's so subjective, right? I mean, your go-to song for this or your go-to song for that, or when you're in a relationship of any kind, whether it's with, your wife, your kids, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever, a song kind of, comes on and it puts you in that place, that space that you can recall years later. It triggers you. There's several songs that I'm very, I'd say, retrospective. If it's my Get Up and Go song, it's hard to beat Thunderstruck by AC/DC because you can't listen to that and like go, well, I'm studying for this, I'm going to put on Thunderstruck. Right? It just can't work because you can't, your head is moving around a little bit. But your song Always on the Hello Hurricane album has emotional impact for me. And I say that to you, we were just talking about what does it mean to you? Where were you when that came to you? For me, when I hear Always, it makes me reflect on the loss of my parents. I think about that for whatever reason. It's not that that's what the lyrics necessarily are meant to. It just has that kind of feel. It's an emotionally soft, retrospective song to me. It's like you could be a better you. I could be a better me when I hear that. And I think about my kids, my better half. And I could be I should be a better husband. I should be a better dad. I should be a better dog dad, whatever. I don't know if that has ever been said to you about that song, but what is Always, and how did that come about?
So Always, was written on the lap steel. Do you know what those are?
Yeah.
They're really fun to play with. I was just trying to learn how to play it, and I think the lyrical place that I was in was wrestling with almost. I didn't have any kids at the time, but thinking through like what is it like to be a father? What would that be like? It's interesting that you think of your parents and, you know, your kids and your dog and all that. I do think that there's this idea of like, how do you tell someone that I'm always yours, that I will always be there? What does that mean?
All right.
And then the second verse wrestles with, like, the first one's a real welcoming. This is the sun. These are your lungs. This is the day that you're born. And it's beautiful. I'm always yours. And then the second verse, because I think every song needs to be grounded in some form of recognition of pain.
Right.
I don't trust a song that doesn't recognize pain, because I feel like if you aren't talking about that, I don't know that I can trust you. You sound like you're selling something.
Right.
What is it? The Princess Bride line, life is pain, your highness. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something, you know?
I love that.
So the second verse is like, well, these are the scars deep in your heart. This is the place you were born. We're born into a painful existence, whether it's a scraped knee or the death of a loved one, or, I mean, there's so many awful things you could name there.
Right.
And this is the hole where most of your soul comes ripping out from the places that you've been torn. Kind of, how do you grieve with someone? How do you walk them through that? And then at the end of that, it's always yours, but I am always yours in that. I think that for me, that song kind of came to fruition when I had kids, where, you know, with my daughter, there were some complications, and I feel like sometimes songs, you don't know why you write them until afterwards. And that song for me feels like I understand the song now, and I didn't understand it when I wrote it. I didn't know what I was saying until after wrestling through, you know, sitting up in a hospital room with my wife, hoping my daughter pulls through. You know, that's the kind of thing where at the end of that, then you're like, oh, I think I understand this song. And that happens to me a lot, where you write a song and then years later you realize why you wrote it.
Tim, when John is reflecting on that to you as a collaborator, life's collaborator in music for him, obviously you have, you know, when you have families, they're your life's collaborator. But for you, your collaboration kind of interweaves pretty, you know, nepotism is very interesting, because you collaborate in life with someone you've known your whole life. You probably have no memories without John in it, and vice versa for John. As he's gotten older, there's no memories without Tim in it.
No good ones.
No good ones.
Wow. Look at you boys are wearing yellow together. Something's got to be right. But when you collaborate on a song like that, you know, the fun songs are probably, I don't know if they're easier or harder, you know, because it becomes contagious, where everybody, whether it's Chad or any of the members of the band, are kicking in because it's fun, and then you add something in a collaborative effort. But the emotional side, you know, you guys can connect in a different way than a lot. You know, there's been a lot of brothers in bands that have not flourished over the years, in especially rock and roll, right? I mean, it's well documented. For you guys, the collaborative emotional touch, is it always there?
I think it's a great question. I think that John and I have always been best friends, you know, and that's not to say that we didn't fight a ton as kids, right, that we haven't fought while being in this band. You know, we're both very passionate people. I think we've learned to appreciate that passion, that underneath the fight, there's the fact that there's two people that care and believe deeply, which is essential for creating good art. You know, the moment someone decides that it's not worth fighting over, I think that's when art becomes mediocre. You know, you want that struggle, you want that fight. And so we've learned to respect it more as we've grown together. I think, you know, within the band, that closeness kind of forces all of us to have that same level of closeness. And Chad is certainly our brother from another mother. Same with Jerome. You know, I mean, these are guys that we have so much history with, that we've been through so much together.
Right.
And, you know, that being said, I'm still always mystified by the creative process. You know, I don't understand it, which is, I think, a beautiful thing. You know, it's like this magic trick that works on the magician because it's different every time.
Right.
And I'm fascinated with how other bands do it, you know, and in conversations with other bands, no one has a formula, or at least the goal is that you don't have a formula. It's like this combination of creating a process and then immediately destroying it, you know, because you're trying to find new places, like John spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
So,
and it makes sense to me when you guys have taken even a little bit of a break as a band based on that. Is there ever a fear that you guys are not going to get back together?
I don't think fear is the right word for it. I think we hold this band very dearly, but we also try and hold it with an open hand, you know? We believe very much in the power of rock and roll and music, and
right.
We pour our hearts into these songs, but in the same breath, it's only rock and roll. And, you know, we want to be good brothers, good friends, good husbands, good fathers. And we kind of approach every season with that perspective. This is what we've done for, you know, the last 12 records.
Right.
Does that mean there has to be a 13th? No. That's absurd. You know, it's
right.
Cherishing the moment for what it is, celebrating the path we've been on, not taking it for granted. And it's never a given that we're going to do another record. You know, it shouldn't be.
Now,
and we approach each record kind of with that question.
Today's episode is dressed by True Classic. Let's chat about t-shirts. I wear them all the time, and finding the perfect fitting shirt can be frustrating. Either too tight, not breathing where it should, or just plain big and boxy. True Classic wants to make every man look good, tight fit in the chest, plenty of room in the torso, and the perfect collar. So get rid of the old t-shirts and upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic. They have all kinds of sizing too. No matter what your body type is, True Classic makes some great options for different colors too. I know that a lot of my friends wear t-shirts all the time, and they need to give True Classic a try to enhance their wardrobes. Get comfortable, get going, and upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic. Get 25% off at trueclassic.com with code PATH. Free shipping included on purchases over $100, and 100% risk-free guarantee with a 30-day return policy. True Classic. When you look good, you feel good. You guys are synonymous to me with San Diego. I mean, I lived in San Diego for a very long time. Recently, our Padres captured our imagination again by taking it to another level where we can actually get behind them. I don't know whether it was Machado's social or one of yours social. You guys were all kind of celebrating in the rain together on that, on that dreary, rainy night.
Oh man, that game 4 against the Dodgers,
right?
Where we finally took them out.
It was almost biblical because it was raining in San Diego of all places.
It was like being inside of a baseball movie. You know, I mean, the only thing that didn't happen is the lights in the outfield didn't start exploding into fireworks.
Right, you know, like in The Natural or something.
Exactly, but everything else was exactly how you want it. You know, it was an unbelievably magic night. And to be there with Rob Machado, our longtime friend that we've also traveled the world with, and his family, and it was just surreal.
The magic of that, your Bro-Am, let's just cover that really quickly. The Bro-Am to me is, again, a fundraising tool, but it's also a celebration. It's in the middle of the summer. It's much closer to me than you guys. It's less than a mile from my house, so it's pretty easy to walk down to Moonlight and catch you guys. So there's no excuse for me unless I'm out of town. But that said, the Bro-Am is a combination of surfing, music, and kind of celebration of San Diego. Could Switchfoot survive outside of San Diego?
That's a great question.
Bob Dylan loves to visit the childhood homes of his heroes. Springsteen, there's a great story of him visiting Springsteen's neighborhood in the rain, because he felt like place was not arbitrary, that the place you come from is crucial. And I do think for us that not only the path we've been on, but where we came from has been a huge part of who we are. Especially early on, the San Diego music scene and the surf scene were so embracing of iconoclastic weirdos like ourselves, giving us the idea that we could do whatever with music and feel comfortable doing it. And music was never seen as an occupation or a way to make money like it was in LA. It felt like San Diego was like, oh yeah, they can have the record companies and stuff. We're going to keep making music that's weird and fun and different. And you'd have like a hardcore band playing with a ska band, playing with like a folk singer. And that was just kind of the bill that we all grew up with, thinking it was normal, But I look now that I've traveled around, and I think you're right. Maybe Switchfoot couldn't happen any other place.
If you had to say, you guys are traveling, your style of music, do you guys have like specific t-shirts that you wear at home and that you don't wear on stage, that's part of your uni on stage?
I wear I think I wear the same thing every day, pretty much. Whatever shirt is on top, this is the shirt that's on top.
Right.
And then some pair of corduroys. I got my Padres socks here.
Nice.
And, Vans or Chuck Taylors. I will dress it up a little bit on stage, and I might not wear a hoodie, just to keep it classy. Exactly.
Tim, the same?
Yeah, when we're home, we're much more, functional. Yeah, whatever's easy.
Yeah. For you guys, if you're not working or collaborating on new music or even in the water, what bands intrigue you?
I think first of all, this is kind of a golden age of music. I'm excited to see how the rest of this current phase that we're in plays out. But I do think having a bunch of artists stuck at home for 2020 was kind of a gift to listeners. Music listeners are reaping the benefits of a bunch of people bored out of their mind, stuck at home with Pro Tools or whatever it is, So,
Moses Sumney, a lot of, I don't mean to jump in, but I remember during COVID, you guys were creating a lot of content, a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And it looked like you're bringing fun to people's lives when people could be miserable or facing, for many, real health issues.
I mean, on the one hand, you have live music as a no longer viable thing.
Right.
2020.
Right.
Music no longer, therefore, as a means of providing for your family.
Right.
On the other hand, music has never been more necessary. We as listeners, I'm a listener as well, we needed music. We needed artists holding our hands, bringing us through. We as artists, we needed to be making music. We needed somewhere to put all of these thoughts and questions and all the anxiety of the time. So it was a very creative time period and in a very altruistic way, where there's no reason to be doing music other than we all needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. And I remember just the positive energy of your posts with the music, because I think it was enlightening and bringing joy, because if somebody was looking at it, you guys were bringing that fun that people were not necessarily able to have, other than, I watched so much more stuff with my family on television. It was just crazy amount of shows that I caught up, or movies where I made lists
Yeah.
of, this is my favorite sports film. What's your favorite sport? People are like going back and forth. It was crazy. And I connected with so many more people in a weird way, because I was just had time to actually sit back and write some people and go, hey, how you doing? How's your family? Which I always feel bad that I didn't reach out to certain people, because it was like, well, why didn't I do that? That was really stupid. But for you guys coming out of COVID, it's kind of like a clean slate. I mean, you could have gone in any direction with the iteration of Switchfoot, whether it be returning to, maybe you wouldn't, but you could have gone into that more hard sounding rock. It could have shocked people that you guys went back there. But that may not be you anymore. How do you address the phases of Switchfoot?
Yeah, I think if you've been friends with somebody for long enough, you're going to see them in different moods. You're going to know, like, oh, this is what they're like when we're in Cabo for a week. This is what they're like with their kids. This is what they're like at work, whatever it is, and that's not to say that they're disingenuous, any of those places. They're true to themselves. I think with music, it's a chance to truly dive into different areas of who you are. And I think we take full advantage of that. I don't think that we see any continuity as necessary from album to album. Mm-hmm. We got a fresh canvas. I got a can of spray paint. Let's go.
Well, for you guys, you come out of COVID and now, as you're coming out with new music, the intriguing thing, it sounds, again, your latest song, which is California Christmas.
Welcome to my California Christmas. Christmas lights on all the fake palm trees. The only snow that falls is the fake stuff at the mall. Bathing suits in 85 degrees.
Love the video, love the song. Is there a vibe of the Beach Boys in that sound?
Yes. Yeah. Basically, the entire album, I mean, we were talking about COVID. One of the things I was attempting to do during COVID, we all got on these little obsessions. One of my obsessions was creating and curating a Christmas playlist. And I realized that the album I wanted to listen to didn't exist. And so this is our attempt to be the Christmas album that you want to hear in the world. This is our Christmas album. We called it, that's what we called it. It's pretty simple. And we basically took a lot of our favorite California feelings, from the Beach Boys to Black Flag, and just kind of like said, all right, this is what we feel like a good California Switchfoot San Diego representation of what the Christmas record I want to hear.
For that, it sounds almost like you guys could have been harmonizing out on the water to get that sound. Was there any of that kind of collaboration? Just some unique, because
you list the ocean as you list the ocean as one of the co-writers on the album.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think that would be a fair thing to put for any of our records. There's always, every studio day starts with us, John, Chad, and I out surfing together.
Right.
So, yeah.
Credit where credit's due. Let's finally put the ocean in the credits.
Well, I'm just listening to it and thinking, man, I could see these guys going into their Beach Boy mode, sitting, waiting for a good ride and just sitting on their board going, okay, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? How about this? Can you harmonize this way? How about this? How does this sound? I could hear you guys actually doing that on this song more than other songs, because it sounds like your guys are just having fun collaborating about Christmas, but in a Beach Boy way.
It was a really fun record to make. You're absolutely right that we had a lot of fun making this record. It's something that we talked about doing for a while. And I think Christmas, the theme it's such an emotional theme when you start digging,
Right.
There's so much nostalgia. There's so much emotion, good and bad, because it's all right there at the surface. Childhood memories.
Right.
And then, the music that we've grown up listening to associated with Christmas as well, that it's from a time period, a lot of it where chords were so adventurous and rich. And so you have full writer's privilege to go there, in a way that you might not be able to do in a typical rock song. You can use these expensive chords and touch on all these big emotions. And so we really had a lot of fun just taking full advantage of all of that.
Do you guys do Christmas together as families, or where do you guys normally do your holidays?
Yeah, I mean, when we were kids, Christmas was the chance to, bust out the guitar. Grandpa had a banjo and piano, and everyone, harmonicas, all sorts of things. And everyone would grab an instrument, and we would butcher Christmas songs. Like, we would destroy them because, when you're a kid, you don't know how to play, right. But it was always like, yeah, it doesn't matter if we know the song or not. Yeah. We can sing and find our way through. And, but that was always Christmas. It was just, butchering Christmas songs.
And here we are, still butchering Christmas songs many years later.
What's your go-to Christmas movie?
Lampoons.
Absolutely.
Has to be.
So that's like,
Clark Griswold is my
kids may
spirit
say, hey,
animal.
put on Elf.
Yeah.
Right. You guys.
I will say Elf is a modern day classic. I love Elf.
Elf is funny. Yeah.
It's not even modern day anymore, Tim.
I know.
Yeah.
It is for me.
But John, is same movie?
Yeah, Lampoon's Christmas is it. I mean, my wife and I, we will watch it every year, sometimes twice. It just feels like it sums up the holidays. And every line I will relish and probably say throughout the year. There's just so many zingers. It's kind of the Dumb and Dumber of Christmas music movies. Yeah.
It's good stuff. For you, what does 2023 look like?
2023.
We have some tricks up our sleeve. We haven't unveiled all of them yet, but we were busy in the studio for the last couple of years, and so we have some surprising, fun stuff in the pipeline.
Well, that'll be exciting, and your fans, me as one of them, are excited to hear it, because I think it sounds like you guys are like putting a dog in a mailbox for a little bit, and all of a sudden open that mailbox and it's like, wow, it just bursting out at the seams, ready to take everybody on, you know.
That poor dog, he's been in there for so long.
Let him out.
Exactly. So, but it's exciting, and that's, you know, I'm very appreciative of you guys taking a few minutes out of your day to talk to me about Switchfoot, about, you know, the lead into this Christmas album. You know, when I reflect on it, like I said, you know, it's a weird thing when I'm trying to think, the other song that's really hits me. Do you guys remember Michael McDonald had a song? I think it's I Will Let Go Now, or I Will Let You Go Now, or something like that. And really good song, but very emotional at that time. And that's a period of my life when my dad passed. And every time I would hear it, tear up.
Wow. Yeah.
And even watching baseball, like a baseball movie as clunky as Field of Dreams, that scene where he says, "Dad, you want to have a catch?" Boom, tear up. So, you know, I have my own little softer side. Switchfoot always brings that emotion out for me, which is cool. And I'm very appreciative of you guys and Chad and the whole band for contributing to that and making great music over the years. And I thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. We're very appreciative of having you on the path here. You can make sure to grab, download California Christmas, the new release of Switchfoot, the funsters of the Foreman Brothers, their take on a San Diego or a California Christmas is something you should listen to, and make sure you write them on their social and let them know what you think about their music. Make sure you catch them in 2023 on their upcoming tour. Guys, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thanks for coming on the path here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Happy holidays, Scott.
Good to see you, Scott.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this week's show. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to write us on thepathhere.com to have one of your questions featured on a future episode. You can follow me on Instagram @ScottSavlo. If you want to send us a tweet or follow us on Instagram, it's @thepathhere podcast. Hey, I'm Scott Savlov, and you've been listening to The Path Here.